AskReddit by AMGBOI 69420. People who work for the super wealthy, what stuff have you seen? Worked as one of 4 full-time groundskeepers at a large estate, 46 acres of lawn to mow twice a week, 2 clay tennis courts, 3 pools, 1 for the main house and 1 for each of the 2 guest houses, 100+ acre private lake with boathouse. No clue how big the whole estate was including the woods. Personal favorite was the 3-mile personal racetrack. But what really blew my mind was that he hosted his niece's wedding one summer, paid $350K to have this massive willow tree trucked in and planted by the lake for wedding photos, only to pay another $50K to have it removed and the landscaping returned to its original state after the wedding because he did not like the look of it. I've always wondered, can you actually move and resoil massive mature trees? Like if you see a gorgeous massive tree on a hill somewhere and you're thinking, man, I wish I'd have this tree in my backyard, does it mean you can actually do it? Take it out with roots and all and replant it somewhere else? I often do work for the wives of wealthy professionals. The thing that has always stood out to me is that if I tell them that something they want isn't doable, they respond with literal confusion. It isn't anger. It's confusion. They are so unaccustomed to not being given exactly what they want that it's as if they don't understand what is happening when they are told they can't have something. You don't say that's impossible, what you do is you give them an extremely outrageous price and they will pay it. Pumped a bunch of money into the Malibu City Council in order to change a few seats. This would allow him to have the local ordinance changed so his front doors could be taller than 20 feet. I used to work at a members-only golf country club. There were members who had been actors, athletes, race car drivers, former CEO of Google, some major money and egos going on. There was one family that had 3 teenage kids, 2 girls and a boy. The mom and the girls were very attractive and knew it. They always looked amazing and had overly entitled attitudes to match. They were fancy. Well, the lady who washed the linens for the county club also did house cleaning for some members. This family was one of them. She said their multi-million-dollar home was a disaster filth zone. They basically did no housework in between having the cleaning lady there. Dishes piled with dried food that smelled, dirty clothes thrown everywhere, piles of crap all over, sticky floors, dog poop left on the floor. But the nastiest part was the bathrooms. She said they wouldn't empty their bathroom trash. If you're that rich and you're paying people to come clean for you, why not pay them to come every day? Had a client come into our 3D printing office. His attention was immediately caught by a large industrial 3D printer in our showroom. Pulled out a credit card and bought a $25K machine on the spot. Best part was when we installed the machine at his facility. First thing he wanted to print was a meter-tall penis. Few weeks after the install we got a photo of him standing next to the meter penis. Money well spent. First thing I printed with my ender was a penis. To this day, nothing I've printed has come out as clean, though I'm admittedly not great at it. Not the craziest thing but wild to me. I was working for a kind of well-off family during a summer. I went inside to get a drink and the mom was cleaning the kitchen, putting things away and such. She picks up a MacBook and says to me, "Hey, do you want this? No one uses it, got a brand new MacBook for college." My mom was a maid growing up, not for the hyper wealthy but for wealthy people. I got so much free shit growing up because of them, it's insane. Clothes with tags on it, boxes of VHS's, I'm old, Gamma Boys, computers whenever they upgraded. It was actually really nice, because the people my mom worked for were very nice and generous. My brother-in-law built custom homes in the redneck Riviera belt of Florida. One day, he called me to come over to this $15 million beach house he was doing a complete remodel of. He was the original builder. He asked me to bring my truck and trailer. I show up, and he walks me through all 4 floors. He then says, the owners have removed all the stuff they want to keep. She has told me to dispose of everything as I see fit. Get what you want. Furniture, appliances, outdoor furniture, rugs, lamps, artwork, you name it. I don't know the value of everything I took home with me that day, but it was the highest end stuff I've ever seen. 4 floors of it, and I only got one trailer load because I simply couldn't fit anything else in my house. I likely had over $20k worth of furniture and appliances on that trailer. Man, I would have rented a U-Haul and storage space. You possibly could have made 6 figures selling all that stuff. An old boss did extremely well and sold off the lion's share of his ownership but wanted to stay involved in the company anyway, so he'd drive his absurd supercar to the office and just hang out. One day he came into the office and it was set up in such a way that the executive offices were in a little 2x2 office glass pod in the middle, with curtains for privacy if needed, and our rows were arrayed around them. He sat in his little glass office all day and cleaned his handguns. I'll say this though, he wasn't a bad dude. We may not have seen eye to eye on politics, but if you worked for the company he knew your name and would hang around and chat. Super generous around the holidays with time off and the big holiday party, door prizes, stuff of that nature. The company went way downhill when he finally let go of the reins completely. I work for UPS and it makes me really envious to hear from the old timers at the company what it was like when Jim Casey, the founder, was still in control of the company. It seemed like the moment he died, people were just waiting to screw it all up. My sister is a butler for a super wealthy family. She told me a couple crazy stories. The family once got this super expensive rare breed cat and a few months later the wife tells my sister she can feel the cat isn't quite happy in their house, so she asks her to take their private jet to drop the cat off in their mansion on Lake Como, Italy so it could spend a holiday in the sun. That same woman would then sometimes berate my sister for buying soap and plastic dispensers instead of just soap bars because it's bad for our planet. They bought this insanely huge super luxurious cabin in one of the most expensive ski stations in Switzerland. They realized the cabin, more like a mansion really, right next to theirs was for sale and then bought that one as well just so they wouldn't have close neighbors. I thought our cats were spoiled. But now that they've heard the private jet and mansion on Lake Como story, I'm on probation. Clearly I've been slacking off on providing accommodations befitting their status. I set up a party for a family out in the Hamptons that bought the house next door just to level it and set up a giant temporary party tent on the plot. Wild shit. Somehow, this story is the wildest one to me. Do you know what they did with the plot after the party? Bodyguarded someone filthy rich with next to no class whatsoever. He bought a very sought after rare classic car from a renowned Italian car maker, had the roof taken off, painted it a ridiculous pink sparkle color and put it on the roof of one of his most central buildings in the middle of a large European city. The Italian car maker offered to buy the car presumably because they were absolutely disgusted with what he'd done to the car and didn't want the abomination to get further exposure as they felt it damaged their brand tremendously. He sold it to them. Was then banned from ever purchasing factory new models from that brand ever again globally. Let me guess, it was a Ferrari. I moved the guy that created eBay. He had Aretha Franklin's grand piano, played it, and Elvis Presley's coat, didn't wear it. I always wanted to know what kind of weird shit you'd be able to get on eBay if you owned it. Now I know. My sister worked on a private yacht of one of the old money us families. She said the parents all seemed okay, the kids though were fucked up, shitting the bed every night, drugs constantly, poor social skills. Yeah, so basically I'm guessing the parents weren't quite as alright as it seemed. Maybe they looked the part but kids like that aren't born in a vacuum. The owner of my company had a customer pay off a giant debt by signing over a yacht to him. When he went to the marina to get the storage info transferred to his name and saw how much it cost to store the yacht there, he bought the marina. Galaxy brain right there. Also he had the spare cash to buy a marina, I guess. The kids, all young 20s, never shut the door when using the bathroom. Plenty times while cleaning the house I'd walk past the bathroom and see one of their daughters on the can. They'd often wave or say hi. Fucking odd. My dad does this. Maybe there's an inheritance I'm not expecting. My bro worked on a super yacht, quit the day he saw a 14-year-old take a massive shit on the deck and tell him to clean it up. Same reason I walked. I was supposed to be machine maintenance. The owner has a private bathroom in his office. I was tasked with unclogging a turd that was about the same size as a Yeti 46-ounce water bottle. I told them in my interview that I don't have the stomach to clean toilets. I interned a long time ago where we had to clear every single check or credit card charge with a guy's parent because he got conned into joining a cult and the leader kept getting him to piss away his trust fund. Once there were enough checks and balances in place, he got kicked out of the cult for not paying up anymore. I felt bad for the guy. He was actually pretty nice, but his parents just pawned him off on the help while they traveled, and he was an easy mark because the cult made him feel loved. This is sad. I do high-end florals in very rich area. See tons of obscene shows of wealth all the time. The amount of money some of these people spend of flowers alone is unfathomable. The one that I always come back to is a client who we were decorating their house for Christmas, and as I was hanging garland around their 6-car garage, a separate garage than the one connected to the house, I look in to see each of the 6 spots has a car elevator and is 3 cars deep. So there were 18 of the same exact $350 K plus car. Why would anyone need 18 of the same exact car, let alone one that expensive? In case one of them runs out of gas, you got another ready. Had a client who purchased a newly built penthouse apartment and wanted a jacuzzi on the balcony. It would have meant a structural column was needed in the middle of the balcony below, which the contractor who built the apartment block wouldn't go for as it would impact selling that apartment. Client buys the apartment below, approves the column, jacuzzi is installed, then privately sells the apartment below. Voila, problem solved. A few years ago a rich French guy opened a school. French people here might be able to connect the dot. A bit before the grand opening, the staff was having a small party on the roof and rich guy came in. He asked them if they had everything they need. Someone said, jokingly, that it was missing a jacuzzi. A few days later, a jacuzzi was delivered on the roof. I did a catering job years ago for John Paul DeJoria, Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell, and his house was awesome. Riverside, Texas Hill Country. Beautiful place. We were packing up at the end of the night and the security guard came by and said, stay away from the windows, we are locking up. We said okay, and about 5 minutes later these metal drop down armor plates came out of the roof, it seemed, and covered each window and door. Thick metal plating armor. I have groomed his dogs on that property. It's amazing. That metal tree outside. Bonkers. Nick Cage. I didn't work for him, but I worked beside his former private island. He would just sit on the beach and stare into the ocean all day. Never work for millionaires. They are just trying to prove something. Work for billionaires. They know what they want and will just pay what it costs to get it right. A caretaker getting paid 6 American figures for keeping up a multi-million-dollar house that gets used 2 weeks a year. Millionaires show that money is no object. Billionaires' money literally is no object. Obviously everyone is different. I remember reading an anecdote on a similar thread where a waiter, I think, said at the club he worked for, groups of millionaires would shell out for a ridiculous drink tab ordering the most expensive wines and cocktails. Billionaire would show up and get a Coke when there is no actual difference between $3 and $3,000 to you. You get what you want. I had a client gamble away $220,000 in one night. Terren Wason story is fucking wild. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Terrence_Watanabe . He sold his family's business, Oriental Trading, and lost $204 million in the next few years gambling. He went completely broke and had the nerve to start a $100K GoFundMe campaign in 2017 when he got cancer. He's pretty well off again, unfortunately, because someone bought the movie rights to his idiotic life. Have a buddy that owns a window cleaning business. Came out to an estate to bid on the job. inside and out for the entire property. Owner decided to just do half, and it was over $13K in 2 days for a large crew to complete. When my friend cashed the check, he noticed the memo: Windows, house number 5. LMAO, I'm gonna have to start filling out my checks that way. Hands check at the car wash. 2008 Corolla number 12. Radiant heated driveways to melt snow. A turntable to rotate their car so they didn't have to back out of their driveway. Lifts in the garage so they can park cars underneath each other. The heated driveway's not the most expensive thing in the world. It's not cheap, but definitely within the realm of possibility for even someone upper middle class, although in today's day and age that might as well mean rich AF. They're getting more common around Canada because shoveling snow fucking sucks. You weren't allowed to hand him or his family things that have already been opened or used. That bottle of sunscreen that was only used once. Don't even think about it. Everything has to be new. There was a desk that had bottles and bottles of just sunscreen that they only used once and never again. The interesting thing was this guy owned an eco resort. Deleted. We did a ladies shower one time during the middle of a nasty divorce. The shower was 6-10 feet with the entire ceiling covered in shower heads. Since he was off with half the office, I figured I'd get the other half all in here. Lady was a baller. $500 tip for everyone who worked on that bathroom because it was her ex's money. Edit. We redid the glass to her shower when I was at a glass shop. How the actual plumbing and stuff worked is beyond me. My job was to bring in giant panes of glass, attach them to the wall floors, waterproof the seals, and with how large her house was and the other 2 smaller houses that were attached, I'm sure she had enough money to throw at someone to solve those plumbing problems. Honestly, having a shower like that sounds like the dream. I want that now. Or at least one that just delivers a splash of water that cleans you in no time. My friend is a mechanic. A wealthy, fat, famous and all-round unlikable entrepreneur came into his work one day and took a liking to his co-worker. He asked my friend's co-worker to come and work for him maintaining his car collection. It was really good pay and he got to work on some cool cars, so he thought, why not? His days were spent working on old, rare sports cars on his sprawling property, but every now and again he'd get sent to Europe or the United States to check out cars said entrepreneur was interested buying. He'd get sent to auctions all the time and ring up said entrepreneur while it was happening so he could bid on the car on his behalf. Edit. Not Jay Leno. If you can figure out the country I'm in, you'll 100% know who it is. Not Clarkson either. Yep, it was Clive. Deleted. I coached sailing to the child of a CEO from one of the biggest service industry conglomerates. When his child did well, he would take me out to dinner, sometimes with his buddies. The many stories they each told of cheating on their wives, drug taking, tax evasion and general scumbaggery genuinely shocked me, especially when I had a close relationship with some of his children. I have quite a few wealthy clients, and one common thing is that many of them have side girlfriends. I did personal shopping for a pop star for about 7 months before they moved out of my area. The main thing I witnessed was inconsistency. Day 1. Go find me this exact rug and find some picture frames that would complement this room. Great. I put in a little extra footwork and found that rug discounted. Well, they didn't want it discounted when they can afford full price. Day 2. While they were out the other day, they saw this fantastic sculpture at a home goods store. Can I find it? Hey, turns out I can. No problem. Wait, but if I found that rug from yesterday discounted, why couldn't I put in the time to find this discounted? NDA runs out in 2030, but otherwise I have nothing but praise. They were a joy to work with. It was just very much never knowing what would strike their fancy and when, then not knowing if I should go the extra mile to save money or find a newer model, or just get paid for a full day's work for walking about a mile to bed, bath, and beyond. That sounds fun, I have to be honest. I worked on a school project with a girl whose family net worth is more than $9 billion. They have a consumer products company that is a household name everyone would recognize, and it is family run. 2 stories. First, at dinner one night, she made an offhand comment. Growing up, my parents would tell me to eat all the food on my plate. And I thought, yeah, me too. Until she continued, because when I'm running the family business, it will offend our overseas suppliers if we don't eat all the food they serve. Second, I was writing a fluff article for the school newspaper about an event. It was fun. Many people including John Park, Jose Gonzalez, and Mary Jones all attended. I gave them each and for your information before submitting. She replied immediately very agitated and said I couldn't include her. I thought she misunderstood and said it would only show up buried at the back. She replied, you don't understand. If my name shows up in the paper at all, I will get angry calls from my whole family, parents, aunts, uncles, everyone. Why would she get angry calls? My aunt used to clean rich people's houses. I helped her once and I saw a tanning bed in the loft bedroom of a little girl, 12 or so years old. I was the project manager for a mansion built for one of the founders of a major health insurance company here in the US. This guy was one of, if not the, best billionaire I've ever worked for. He showed up nearly every day in shorts and flip-flops and would treat all of us like equals. This was around the time that President Obama was about to put out Obamacare. I was in a meeting with the owner and President Obama called him, on his cell, to discuss the plan. He, the owner, tells us to hold on, the president is calling, to which someone jokingly made a comment about, thinking he was joking. The owner asks Obama to say hi to the team, and he did. It was surreal to be at the table with him when the call came through. And an experience I will never forget. Edit. He was a founder but sold his shares, prior to Obama becoming president, and was in retirement, working on passion projects. Not an active member of the company. I'm not going to disclose his name for NDA purposes. I will say that his story is pretty all-American. Did not come from money. Served in Vietnam and started out as an insurance salesman. Built his own company up from that. I was a trainee sailing on a container ship going from Dubai to Tokyo and back, via all the big ports. One day the route was changed and now we would go from Singapore to LA. Because this change wasn't planned, we, the 2 trainees, didn't have visas for the US, meaning we couldn't leave the boat once we docked. For us it was not a problem, we'd only be there for 2-3 days at most. The company decided we should get the visas. They flew us from Hong Kong to our home countries, got us a 10-year work permit for the US in a matter of days, and then flew us back to Dubai to join the ship. I've never seen money thrown around like that for little to no reason. It was crazy. Not quite as ridiculous in scale but similarly, was with a girl who was promoted to an hourly level, key carrying lead role at a US retail chain. Every other week for 4 months straight the company paid for me to drive her to the airport, fly her to Dallas for the day for some training event, and back in the same day. The promotion was a dollar raise and the only added extra responsibility was occasionally opening or closing the building in the event a salaried manager wasn't available and responding to the occasional customer service call at the desk. It was wild to me. I work as a maid, not the most ideal job but it pays well. Children are usually neglected because money can't replace a parent that loves you. Their kids are usually pretty spoiled too. Most kids have the whole Apple ecosystem. Also, what is it with rich children wanting to be from the hood? I wonder if it's rebellion or looking for some kind of community? I am a dentist and used to own a dental office in an extremely wealthy area. I feel like really rich people come in 2 flavors, very humble and generous or just 100% a-hole. Most are the a-hole. Not much in the middle. True wealthy people care a lot about time, not money. If there was any hiccup in a procedure or something wasn't correct they would flip out. 99% of the issues they would flip out about I could fix but that meant they had to make another dentist appointment which wasted their time. I hated working on rich people. Best day of my life is when I sold that dental office. Makes perfect sense when you have the money to do whatever you want. The next obstacle becomes time. I did carpentry for a summer to save up money for school. We would go to huge mansions and amazing houses that needed work done. Usually easy stuff, decorative things, so most times it would be 1-2 days of work. Most times we would work, the family would be home. It's not a problem, very normal. Once a family had kids and they watched a TikTok video on what poor people eat, and it was about how to cook things like 10-cent ramen and bread with sausages to make hot dogs. They laughed and thought it was fun, so made the food to try in the kitchen. They hated it all. This was the food I grew up eating my whole life. That packet of ramen was the same as a dinner waiting for me at home. Perspective, mate. It's your life and just an experience for them. You value it more, makes it more valuable. Let not their admonishment detract from what you have, and they can never gain perspective, and experience beats anything. I used to clean their super yachts many years ago. They are drug addicts, so many drugs. Back then I was young and happily consumed their leftovers. What sort of drugs? I guess I'm looking for how hard tbh. I worked at a house in which both father and mother were so busy making money in order to give their children a better quality of life that the eldest son, who was at my school, joined a gang. That guy didn't lack money, but he lacked empathy, love for other people, respect towards others, control of emotions. I've worked for rich people a few times before, and no one's kids are fucked up like rich people's kids. He lives on a lake, but his wine cellar is in a building across the lake. So he takes his boat to the wine cellar in a building also on the lake. He wanted a bigger cellar, so he paid them to expand the building to accommodate his wine. Once said and done, he created a code specifically for the wine cellar. Being it's across the lake, he takes multiple boxes at a time. While he's there, he scans them with a little 3D scanner that automatically orders the wine from various places, emails his assistant to order certain wines. He once threw me a bottle of wine and said, "Good thing you caught it, that was $10K. Spending $200K on light fixtures for the spare bathroom. Spending over $2 million on a garage for their motorhome. Building a home where the kids' wing was about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the parents' wing. Building a 10K square foot guest house for company." I could go on and on about the utter waste of money the ultra wealthy is willing to spend on. One thing they will never overspend on and will fight you tooth and nail over is labor to build, install anything. What struck me the most is how extremely picky they are, and how angry they get at anything that isn't exactly how they want it. Because I'm noticing myself drift towards that, even though I'm nowhere near wealthy. It makes me question what I feel entitled to. Everything else, I categorize as alien behavior that I could never understand. This is the only one where I see a bit of myself. I struggled with this picky thing myself when I moved into leadership roles in my career and started delegating work. I'd send out the work with clear instructions, and I'd get something back different than what I would have done, missing things I'd consider the standard way to do things, or different from what I'd explained I wanted, etc. It led to a bit of an epiphany for me. The saying, "If you want something done right, do it yourself," isn't about everyone fucking things up. It's about learning to accept some slight variations from what you have in mind when you farm out some work, whatever it may be. If you want a thing done to an exacting degree and nothing less than perfection will suffice, that's okay, but you need to do it yourself. The kids are all kinds of screwed up. Turns out money can't replace an emotionally available parent. My friend's wife was a nanny for a family where both parents were VPs of a pharmaceutical company and were already from old money families. They paid her $1,000 a week in cash to basically be a full-time parent. When she left around 5, they had a second nighttime nanny that would come and take over. The kids were not allowed to go to their grandparents' house because the grandparents had a lot of nice antiques and were afraid the kids would break something. When she quit, the kids had to be put in grief counseling because they felt like they lost a parent. The parents would regularly have to ask her what their favorite food was, what they enjoy doing, what clothes they like and what sizes they wear. She loved the money but said it just became too depressing to keep doing it because of how little they cared about interacting with their children. Wife is PA for wealthy and incredibly powerful man. Self-made, humble, uncomfortable in small social gatherings, but a lion in a business setting. Understated houses. What I found most interesting is the guy would think nothing of dropping 5 figures on jewelry or other luxury items, but come the end of the day Friday that guy is in the kitchen at the office taking home all the leftover bagels from the morning. If he is self-made and comes from humble background, then he probably doesn't like anything going to waste. Might be a holdover habit from when he was younger. I dated the heir of a family worth billions. He had a black Amex that was paid off every month. He never knew who paid it or anything like that. He regularly planned vacations that cost $50 $100k, usually to super remote areas. Waking up every day with nobody expecting anything of you makes a person weird. He was a very kind person but just out of touch. Used to work for a real estate development company. The boss was the richest guy in town. The second biggest office was given to his wife who did nothing. Her office was entirely bright pink. They put in a private bathroom just for her. Her parking space was double wide because she couldn't park straight and she used employees to run all her personal errands. It was very annoying, but we were told we had to do everything she said. I remember she once asked me to print out a website for her. Jeeves, please print out the Reddit for me. Madam? Yes. That odd website. All of it? Print out the Reddit. My mom's cousin, my second cousin, worked for a billionaire in China, building a hospital as his general contractor. Well, he came home and found out he had a package waiting for him that weighed over 700 pounds. Turns out he bought him a statue. He remarked on that was a recreation of a terracotta warrior statue. Even as a recreation it predated Christ. Many years ago, my uncle's firm worked on the construction of a world-famous dam in China. When it came time to pay his firm, the Chinese government gave him a deed for a percentage of ownership of the dam in lieu of payment. It was a great honor and totally not a mafia brush-off. Get it? Anyways, that's the only thing I want from my uncle's estate. I want partial ownership of a dam that alters the Earth's rotation. On paper, I'd be worth billions. In reality, it's worth the paper it's printed on. But I dig it. Grew up with the children of a very famous musician. Think someone who has dozens of songs you'd recognize immediately. Their house had 4 stories and 3 elevators. The kids' room, identical twins, was 2 stories itself and bigger than my family's. Nice, 2-story home with a pool. Every toy you could imagine, dirt bike track, baseball field. One of the twins was very kind and I really liked him. The other had a bit of a chip on his shoulder and his personality would change a lot, but he wasn't a bad guy, at least when I knew him. I believe the nice one joined the military for a bit, then when he got out joined helping to support the business. Not sure what happened to the other. His parents were very kind. My dad about had a heart attack when he showed up at our house to drop me off one day. He recognized him immediately. Funny enough, they just wanted to be normal. We all wanted to go to their house, but they really just wanted to come hang out with us and not be treated differently. Didn't understand it at the time.